Okay, I think we are live. Hopefully we are. Hopefully everybody can hear me. And everybody can see me now as well. Say hello to everybody. I'll just wait one more minute just to see that everybody else is on time and joining. Right. Okay, everybody. Thank you for joining. Thank you for attending to this session. Today we are going to talk about sales and CS handover process. And as we always should start with the main question of why. Why do we need such process? What benefits can bring to us and so on. And I think it is not a secret that everybody understands they need it, but maybe in some point not sure what value it brings, not sure how to build it correctly. I think it is good time just to dive just right into it. This is a portion of my workshop that talks about ecosystem of value, that takes value to a journey from buyers and customer success to a buyers and customer journey and enhance customer success involvement with everything that is actually a little bit prior to a customer when they become a customer, but they're still a prospect. So let's start with the why. And the main reason of why having that type of process is because sales worked very, very hard to bring us customers. And they managed to show a potential value to the prospect or to the buyer during that time of that journey. And when they build trust and rapport, and now it needs to be transferred to us, to the CS function, in order to keep this momentum, continue the trust, because trust builds loyalty and we want customers loyal to us. And this is where we need to start deliver upon the promises and the potential value that sales and marketing show to our potential customer. So this is the main reason. And as you might think of what is the importance of it, so you can see that there are a few things that we will touch. This is a very short one. I want to keep it between 25-30 minutes. We're trying to touch all the points that are on the screen. It ensures continuity and consistency. It's definitely improving customer satisfaction. It's increasing customer retention and loyalty, mainly because the transfer from being a prospect and a buyer, potential customer, to a customer, have this little bit moment of are they going to deliver upon the promises, and I'm going to see value fast enough, and so on. And if we do it correctly, that will increase definitely customer retention and loyalty. We will look about efficiency and productivity, how we can stream the process in a way that it doesn't waste customer time, it doesn't waste our time, and actually we start to build it correctly so everything will be on time, and customer that check us on this very crucial moment, time to first value, time to value, and so on. It's definitely, if it's built correctly, it's facilitating upsells and cost sales opportunities, and it enhances the accountability and ownership. And mainly because a few things that we see we might go unnoticed, where customer doesn't understand where his accountability is coming into the game as well. And obviously, if everything is going well and all the points are being checked, support the business growth and the scalability of it. So this is the main point that we will try to touch in this short session. And as said, the why, it is essential. We know it's essential, and we want to ensure that this transition is smooth as much as we can because it's crucial. And if we don't, our customer relationship will suffer. We know that because we see that usually in the handover, it's starting off onboarding. This is where experience, this is where sentiment, this is where actually a lot of emotions are being involved. Did I do the right decision that I chose that company or that product or that service? And we want to increase the way of trust that our sales team actually build for us. The main reason that we actually need to look at it, as if you look on the latest onboarding report, customer onboarding report 2024, you will see that 77% of a CS functions are feeling that the handoff documentation is more likely to have information gaps. And the whole idea behind it is to minimize these gaps because that is a huge number, as you see. So 5 is highly likely we do have information gaps, and information gaps means that we don't know everything about our customer. We don't know everything the customer wants to achieve. We might miss a lot of things, and that will impact immediately the customer experience. That is part of customer success. We might even miss some desired outcomes, which is, again, customer experience and customer success impact negatively. And as you can see, 3, 4, and 5, which is the most highly likely to have gaps, are the higher, and we want them to be as lower as we can. And the handover is critical because we do have a value handover as well, and we want to continue from the point that sales stopped, which is promising a value, and hand it over to the CS to deliver that value. And this is, as you can see, it's a gap, and this gap where it's in here, it is existing because of many reasons. But what we want to do, we need to build a bridge, but this bridge can be built, we can bring cement and engineer and make it very complex, but we want to make it as smooth as we can. And it has 3 aspects. So one of them is communication, second one is collaboration, and the third one is no ego. And what do I mean, no ego? Something that I heard a long time ago from the VP of Customer Relationship Management at Walt Disney, Scott Haggins, said that no one is owning the customers, but someone is always owning the moment. And when we take the customer to a journey, and this journey starts from awareness into consideration, into selection, into onboarding, adoption, exception, advocacy, and so on, the customer is moving with us, is always at a certain moment. So we don't own the customer, but we own this moment. And marketing owns, and sales owns, and customer success owns, and support owns, and each one of them own a moment where the customer lives in that very certain moment. And we want this experience to be utmost successful, so we can make our customers successful as we promised. So this gap can be, as you can see in the middle, can be very, very wide because the product is complex, or because the onboarding is long, or because many other reasons. We want to make it as narrow as we can based on a very good processes that we would like to have. And how early, this is a question that I usually hear, how early do we need to introduce a CSM to the prospect or to the customer? And it's, again, it depends. In some companies, you might find that they don't need CSM because of the segment, because of the product that they chose, because the complexity and so on. But yet, we all have them customer onboarded. We want their desired outcomes to be delivered, and we want to ensure that the success of the customers is there. So as early as you can. I always recommend that when the technical evaluation is towards the end, when the customer is in the decision or in the select mode, this is the right moment to introduce CSM or to the customer directly if there is an opportunity, sometimes there is no, or to the deal itself, what's coming and how it should look like, and learn a lot and do this account or customer discovery as early as they can. And Handover processes mainly have two stage. One is the internal handover, where we do between sales and customer success and all the people that needs to be part of it. And the other one is the customer handover. So the customer understand that we do a handover from sales to customer success. So all of this is a crucial thing. So the internal preparation needs to be a pre-sale, an account manager filling in the success plan. And if you were part of the previous live session that I did, we talked about what is customer success plan, how it needs to be built, why it's good for, and you can actually look into in my channel under live tab. You can find it in there. It is not owned or not completely owned by customer success. It needs to be introduced to sales and to the sales engineers, and they need to understand also what aspects and what contribution they can add into this plan. So if you want to look at that session, you can, and I actually recommend you to. So pre-sales, SCs, account managers filling in the success plan as the prospect advances towards the decision. We need to identify the pain point, do a customer discovery, and obviously understand the desired outcomes and all the other parts of the plan. The CS Ops, if you have one, should track the CRM for new opportunities and their probability, or if you don't have an ops, then obviously you'll have RevOps or Sales Ops to sit with them on a weekly or bi-weekly meeting to understand what's coming and what we need to look for, and scheduling internal handover meeting with the sales and the pre-sales, updating opportunities in the CRM, and a little bit more of important details. We need to learn everything about the customer itself, right? Who is the customer? When I'm saying who is the customer is everything from why the customer exists, why they have their own business, what they're trying to bring, what industry they are, what size, what location, everything, every aspect of this can be a very crucial piece of information when you build your report and trust with the customer, but also if you want to look into future opportunities or understanding even existing risks that you might know from the same industry, or any discovery that you made prior to that meeting. Which products or services they're about to buy and why they need it. What is the problem they're actually trying to solve with our product? What use cases are more relevant to them? And very important to understand who are the stakeholders, the decision makers, the champions, project teams, buyers, detractors. There's a lot of personas with the customers, and each one of them can impact in a positively and negatively on our deal, and we do want to know them because each one of them brings not only his own or her own business aspect to the deal, but also their own individual, how we contribute them to their own individual success, and we need to understand all of that little details over there. Obviously, what is the contract terms and what desired outcomes and timelines, what we will cover it in a second. So this is the main internal preparation. This is what we need to look at. Let's look a little bit more into details of how to conduct this type of meeting. So it is all about the data. I know there is a lot of data, and we might want to think of what type of data we need, but also not to have too much data, right? Because then we don't understand what's important and what is not. So it's all about the data, but there's a certain amount of data that we need, and I will focus on what is important. Who do we need in this internal meeting is the sales rep, the account manager if it's applicable, the sales engineer, the CSM that are going to take that customer, and if there is a CS Ops, then the CS Ops as well. Timeline, ideally just before the deal is closed, and the reason is that time is ticking, and the minute the deal is closed, the customer is looking for the value, right? So sometimes it takes time, and we need to do handover, we need to do kickoff, we need to do an onboarding plan, and then do the onboarding, and it takes time till customer actually see first value, and we want to make this waiting as shorter as we can. So ideally, just before the deal is closed or right after, matters of 2 up to 3 days max. In order to do so, this is why we need to be involved already before the close is the deal is closed. I know that I was in, from my experience, one of the things that I really didn't like is to get a customer without knowing that this customer is coming, and just being, hey, have a meeting with a customer. He just been close the deal and let's meet the customer, and I know nothing, right? It's going to a blind date without knowing anything, and think of the stress that can bring to the table. So ideally, before or right after. How long? Internally, about 1 hour, and the agenda should look something like that. So look into the CRM, the opportunities detail, to understand exactly what are the pain points that collected, all the details that we already talked about, all the details that might and should be in the success plan, like the pink analysis. Who is the customer? Why existing? Who are the stakeholders? What are trying to solve? And so on. And just review the success plan by looking in and understand that, do you have all the information? And this is just an example, a template for a success plan. And this is all the right information that we need. We need to understand why the companies exist, who are the stakeholders. Let's just drop this one. Any priorities? Did we promise, or did the sales or the SE promise them time, right? We can do it until, that date. We as CSMs, we want to know that that was a priority. And do we have a resource constraint, or do we have the right resource to have it? One thing which is really important is to understand from the sales if they offer services, if they identify risks, and we will talk about it in a second, but if they identify risks that we can solve for them with an extra services. These extra services cost money, and customers don't like to have surprises. You close a deal, you know that your budget, you bring everything to the table, and then say, oh, if you want to do that, you need to add more. And this is where usually we're impacting immediately experience negatively, and that bring trust level to very low level, and we want to avoid that. Pink analysis, the problem impacts needs and constraints. We want to understand exactly what are the problems that the customer is trying to solve. If he had before a solution like us and it didn't work for him, then why, and so on. You can look definitely on this live session or the recorded live session and understand what exactly we need to have a good success plan. So when we look on this one, this is what needs to be updated, and let's go there. No, the internal one. All right. And why is needed, right? Now, and what might be needed in the future. And this is just as simple to understand the needs, right? There is desired outcome, but there's also needs, and their need can be individual needs. It can be a business need. It can be something that they need to solve right now, but it is a very small fraction of what we can give to them, or they bought the whole bundle, but they want to focus on few needs at the moment. So it's very important to capture that. We need to review any expectation set by sales and the SEs to the customers. And again, not in a blaming mode or blaming game. We sit with the customer, with sales in order to create this bridge, to build this bridge. And this bridge, as we said, is about communication, collaboration, and no ego. And this is where we need to bring it to the table. No ego. We want to understand what was promised and what we can actually do according to that. And if not promised, then at least the expectations. We need to discuss how we transfer the ownership, and also some other details to discuss, like sharing the sentiments of sales team about the personalities of each key stakeholders and the individual gains in order to focus on. So where we actually communicate with the customer, we can bring this small little personal touch to it, so they would feel that, hey, there's someone that actually understands me and what I need to achieve, not only for my business but also for my own role. What are the technical capabilities that the customer team has? Do they need enough resources? Do they need technical hand-holding, and so on? So we will also help our own organization to do a good scale and understanding if there are resources needed, and also because lack of resources internally might push the project forward, and by doing that we might again impact negatively the customer experience. Few more things that are crucial is the processes. Do we need to be aware of change management processes to be utilized there, or there are any way of communicate? So do they like us to send emails, meetings, I don't know, pigeons, whatever is needed from the customer to be happy in order for us to communicate, so we will not feel that we are chasing them or bothering them. It needs to be agreed. It needs to be already in the customer success plan, and we need to follow that, because this is part of the experience. And in some places you will have a customer which is in whatever segment they are, and based on the segment we have an internal process that we need to meet them once a week, once a month. But if the customer doesn't really want to do so, we need to respect that. So this information needs to be communicated back to our own internal team to say, yeah, I know that this customer is in that segment. We need to meet him twice a week, or once a week, once a month, but this is what they prefer, and this is why we're not going to meet them according to that process. Some tasks that we need to accomplish after the internal handover meeting. So the CSM has a few things that we need to do in here. We need to update the success plan based on the new data and information that we see from the sales team, which is not already included there. We need to update the CRM if we have access to, or ask the sales rep to do so. And if we are using the CS platform, then update that as well. We need to prepare the customer handover meeting agenda, exactly what the things that we want to talk about and how to contact it as well. And sales rep is the one who's scheduling the customer handover meeting with the customer stakeholders. And the main reason is because he or she has already the trust relationship with the customer. And we do want to do an handover which is agreed by the customer as well, and not just drop someone new on him without just saying, hey, meet this, he will now do that for you, and that's it. So when we go into the customer handover, this is a meeting that should flow in a very good vibes. And the main reason is that this is the first meeting that we, the CSM, meeting the customer, and what we want to do is we want to impress, right? We want to show value from the get-go. So when this meeting happens is usually when the PO lands or new payment customer is presented. What usually happens is the sales team says goodbye, and if they are in charge of renewal, then within 3 months before renewal, they will say, hey, hello, we are back again. But meanwhile, someone needs to hold that customer, right? And it is our job. And the customer handover meeting must happen within 7 days after the deal is signed. And this is why it's so crucial to have this collaboration and communication prior to the customer becoming a customer, mainly because we said it, and I'll say it again, and I cannot stress it enough. Time to value start to tick from the second customer sign the deal. Not when the onboarding starts, not when the kickoff starts, not when the handover starts, when they start the deal. So if the handover happens after 7 days, we are 7 days into need to show value. Time to first value, we're already losing some time, but we can't push everything to the same day. So there's something that customer knows how it works, but also we need to, if we are aware of some priorities in the timeline, we should also look at that as well and also act according. And as we said already, this is our bow tie. It's no longer a funnel. It's no longer things are falling in and then coming out, and then this is where the sales cycle ends and there is a handover. It's actually, we need to look at a customer, want to have a value, want to have an impact by buying our services or product, and it goes into some kind of a journey. So we want to make this gap as narrow as we can, mainly because they're moving from the promised land, which is value was promised to them, into the realized land, which is value now needs to be realized. And this is where we take the value to some sort of journey. And the main reason that is so critical, this handover, because its onboarding is extremely critical. Onboarding is one of the most critical stages that we have. You might not have a retention because of onboarding, but if onboarding goes wrong, most likely we'll have a churn risk, and this is where we want also to mitigate this one. So this all building blocks in order to customer satisfaction and customer success, based on also the experience. So if we look on the challenges from the same report that I mentioned in the beginning, the onboarding report 2024, there was a question of what are the top challenges when you onboard new customers. And as you can see on this one, you have expectation management, holding them equally accountable for work, establishing transparency and understanding customer sentiment during onboarding. And each one of them could be most likely dealt on handover if the handover was, or onboarding if the handover and the collaboration and communication and plus no ego were established a very good process. Why? Because in many things, when we, and you will see in a second of the agenda for the customer handover meeting, we're dealing with this one, expectation management. We know exactly from sales, we know what was promised, we know what we can do, and we know what they are looking for. And in the meeting itself, we will discover more things that we can actually enhance that, setting the right expectations. Second is holding them equally accountable for work, because in some point they say, yeah, I bought a technology and I'm expecting it to solve my problems. And we all know, I hope, that technology doesn't solve problems, right? It needs to be installed correctly, it needs to be managed correctly, it needs to be configured correctly, and it actually needs to answer a lot of other non-technology features, I would say, in order to deliver that success. So it's not plug and play, you install it and then it works for you magically. Some technology might do that, but in most cases, we need from them something. And also success plan, if it's done correctly, and the customer handover meeting done correctly, this will take this one off. Establishing transparency as well. We are all coming to the same table, we're talking about the same things, we are presenting exactly what we're going to do, and we tell them what we need from them. That is establishing the transparency. And last one is understanding customer sentiment during onboarding, mainly because expectations weren't met. And I think that's almost the same over there. So that is the main reason we want to do it very, very good. So prior to the customer handover meeting, we need to make sure that we are aware of all risks and we map them, and we have a mitigation plan before we are going to the meeting, because we want to come to the meeting to say, hey, we are aware of your risk and it is achievable, we can do it for you, but we need this and that, right? Like we are aware of your go to live date requirement, it is achievable, but we will need you to get the admin training right now or in the weeks just before we do the handover, in order for us to make the handover or the onboarding really good. Or you might need to add a resource to help integrate various internal systems because you mentioned they are critical for your onboarding and we don't have control of them. So in order for you to see value, we need this handshake also from you. We need to do our homework. We need to understand the customer. We talked about it. I will just briefly say it. One thing, we meet a customer for the first time after they close the deal as a CS function. We don't have a second chance to make a first impression. And in order to do the first impression, we need to be ready. We need to make sure that we learn all about the stakeholders, champions, personas, what they like, what they don't like, what they want to achieve, what they want to get, and so on. What they're afraid of, because sometimes you're coming and you're replacing something that maybe some of the stakeholders brought in and they are feeling not quite okay with that, right? We need to make sure we understand the why they bought us, what is the problem, what they're trying to solve, and so on. The purpose of this meeting is to gain the general agreement that the customer desired outcome, objective, and timeline are going to be met exactly the way the customer wants. We need to get a consensus of what is it, when, and how. And by doing all of this, we are assuring smooth handover, not decreasing the trust level, and basically keeping the momentum as we should. We need to keep the meeting short and to the point as well, and we need to agree with the customer about everything that we capture in the customer success. So everything which is personal for the stakeholders, keep out of the customer success plan. You don't want to share it. Maybe you do, but it's just a tip for me. Keep it out. The meeting itself, the attendees, the customer. We want the executive sponsor and the decision maker there. We want the project lead, we want the technical lead, we want everyone that is having an impact on the onboarding and then the adoption. The timeline, up to 7 days after the deal is closed. We mention it, you see the clock there, it's ticking. We definitely shouldn't take our eyes from that clock. Meeting length should be up to 45 minutes. We don't want to bore them. Another tip that you want to make sure that although we were going to present the success plan, going to ask a lot of questions, but we need to listen. We're not coming to tell them how good they are for choosing our product. We need to listen what they need from our product or from our service. We need to capture it in order to refine our success plan as accurate as we can. Okay. A question that I got actually just recently is who should conduct the meeting. And what I saw from my experience is sales rep is dropping it on the CSM, like, hi, I'm this and I'm that, and here you go, the CSM is in here, and it needs to be much more smoother. So there's already trust between the sales rep and the customer. It's recommended to let the sales rep to start off, do the introductions, even introduce us. And since it's a handover, it should be visibly a handover, not just a drop, right? We don't want the customer to feel that we are being dropped to the mission, but it's a handover. We did the work together, and now it's just like a relay race. We just, handing over the baton or the control from one to another. And after the introduction to the sales rep, a tip that I must share with you: make sure you introduce yourself again, right? And not only by the title, but also how you contribute to the customer success. And the main reason I'm saying it, because we think that they understand our role. We think that they understand what we're going to do, and assumptions is bad in this one. So what I usually do is I am actually repeating my name or repeating my title, because for some it's important, but I also want to talk about how I'm going to drive success forward and what is the purpose of the role in this relationship. Not what the role is about, but how it's going to impact success. And there's a few ways to do so. I actually wrote some few introductions, and you can look into greeting and introduction. You can start with your name and nice to meet you, and all of these being polite. The purpose of the role: transition from sales to success. We need to acknowledge the success, the sales process. We need to do a smooth transition. Emphasize the continuity and this momentum going forward. We need to keep in mind that we want to build a rapport. We want to invite a dialogue, and we want to keep this excitement in what we're going to do. And I also wrote some example script. You don't need to obviously to copy it and talk in the same language, but this is a good way to start from. A little bit about me, a little bit of what I'm trying to bring, and how we're going to communicate, and to make it sure that they understand that you are now in charge of their success. So you are now the main contact person, but also you came prepared. You already prepared a plan based on the conversation with sales, and you would like just to validate it with them as well. So this is just a small way of introduction. And within the meeting itself, let the customer introduce themselves, ask questions of who they are and how they're going to be engaged within this plan, and the role of them in the onboarding stage or totally in the contract and the relationship. Open the success plan, show exactly what you're trying to achieve with that, all the information that you have, make it transparent as you can, ask the right question, but open both ears to receive the answers and body language. And there is a lot of things that you can actually read from that. And if you come prepared with who are the stakeholders, the decision makers, even the detractors, you can actually see the dynamic between them and collect a lot of things to help you to understand the dynamics. And sometimes I don't like it, the internal politics there, because we need to be very careful not to do something that might jeopardize in an individual in our customer side. So look on the success plan, make sure the customer teams are aligned with the plan, discover what matters for each one of them, and how they measure success, because how we measure success, it's one thing, how they measure success is second. We need to be aligned, and we need to see that they also understand the value that we bring to them. Define the roles and responsibilities. If there is something that we need from them, this is where we actually tell them, but also stress maybe a little bit the impact of this task on the overall plan and the project, if it's onboarding or anything else. Review the timeline, what next steps we need to do, and how each one of them should be involved, and one of us, if you can. And I always like to go with a meeting with schedule for the next meeting already. So already schedule the technical kickoff if there is an implementation needed, or training if it's needed, and agree on the meeting cadence, moving forward, and schedule it as well, because this is always a good way to say we are committed, they are committed, I don't need to chase them for the next stage, because remember, going back to the clock is ticking, and we want to make things smooth as we can. We need to agree with the sponsor on the next call for checkpoint date. If they have a QBR, if you have a QBR as a process, a QBR EVR, which is enterprise value review rather than a business review meeting, do it as well. And when the meeting is over, now what? Make a list of the agreed tasks and the responsibility and the due dates and the timelines and everything that you see in the next steps or desired outcome, or extra to that. Make an update to the success plan, prepare an email with all the information that you gather that needs an attention, a call to action, and send an email to all attendees that were there. Also, send a success plan and ask for a sign-off, because this is where we have a contract now. Not only the financial contract, we have also the technical on the business or the CS contract, and we know what we are actually about to do together and how we're going to measure success and deliver success. And the last one is already send the schedule meetings or book the meetings that agreed on the handover meeting. So this is a little bit late, 8 minutes late into the half an hour. So I was hoping to cover a little bit more, but we are ending in here. And I think that this is where you need to end. This is where you move from handover into a different level of meeting with your customers. You know what they're expecting, they know what to expect and what is expected from them. And from here you can take it to another stage in the journey, and hopefully it is another successful stage. If you have any questions, please send them in the chat. Trying to see if I can actually see chat. You're very welcome, Kim. And if you have any, again, questions, send me an email or DM in LinkedIn, and I'll be more than happy to share information with you. If there's anything that you saw in here that you would like to get this piece of information, then also contact with me and I'll be more than happy to do so. This is my new YouTube channel. It will be a lot of information in here and some shorts and so on. Please subscribe. It is important for me. Also, I have a new website which is launched actually today. So thanks to everybody who were part of it, especially to my significant one. And go and visit that. There's a lot of things to see, a lot of services that you can actually gain from, and maybe one freebie or two. Also, there's some workshops for CSMs and head of CS or CS leaders that want to enhance their maturity, either if it's their own role or anything else, like the CS maturity, and they need some an advice, then more than happy. This workshop is 6 sessions, and you can buy it as a bundle. You can buy each one separately, and it will start on 1st of July. So Monday, 1st of July, this is the first session. I will add the dates there on the website, and I'll thank you very much for you joining, and hopefully wherever you are, good morning, good afternoon, good night, have a good one. Till next time. Cheers.